this afternoon for the session 2 of the track titled Engendering Farmer Collectives, Time to Include Women Farmers. It's my pleasure to invite on the stage the moderator for the session, Ms. Girija Srinivasan, expert in development finance and rural livelihoods. I would also like to invite on stage our distinguished panelists for the session, Mr. S.S. Bhatt, CEO, Friends of Women's World Banking, India, Mr. A. Kalamani, Consultant, AP Mass, Mr. Alan Mukherjee, CEO, NCDX, Mr. Sorangshu Banerjee, Team Coordinator, Pradhan. I now hand over to Ms. Girija Srinivasan to take this session forward. We have Ms. Girija Srinivasan, who is expert in development finance and rural livelihoods, who will be moderating this session. We have Mr. S.S. Bhatt, who is the CEO, Friends of Women's World Banking. We have Mr. A. Kalamani, who is consultant, AP Mass. We have Mr. Alan Mukherjee, who is CEO, NCDX, and Mr. Sorangshu Banerjee, who is Team Coordinator, Pradhan.
Thank you very much, Access team, for including a very, very important aspect of how to make the FPOs more women inclusive. और महिला किसान जो दीदी आप सब लोग काफ़ी दूर से आए हैं, आप सबको हमारा प्रणाम ये सेशन आने के लिए और खास करके ये लाइवलीहुड कॉन्फ्रेंस अटेंड करने के लिए. When we look at, the participation of women in agriculture, I think many of us will know that there is increasing feminization of women in agriculture. And agriculture sector employs 80% of the economically active women in India. So when the labor participation rates of women have been low, and in that we experience 80% of the women are only in agriculture. And if we look at the composition, 52% will be as laborers, but 48% are self-employed farmers. In other words, we could call them as entrepreneurs. And with the growing migration of women, migration of men, the women play a very large role in agriculture. And the latest agriculture census shows that the women are more active in operating smaller holdings than larger ones, which makes the inclusion of women farmer in farmer collectives all the more important. अभी जो बड़ा कार्यक्रम हो रहा है देश में, जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का 10,000 FPOs जो बनने जा रहा है, this is an important initiative, but only thing what is missing is probably a very clear gender focus in the policy as well as in the operational guidelines. Except mentioning that women should be included in FPOs generally, and one director should be a woman to be eligible for SFAC credit guarantee. There are no gender-specific targets for promoting women FPOs or participation of women farmers in mixed FPOs. So we can discuss on this, why the guidelines and the policy do not have a very clear focus in spite of women being playing a very predominant role in agriculture. As more and more government schemes aim at FPOs as vehicles of implementation, unless there is a specific focus on the inclusion of women farmers in FPOs, they are likely to be left out of income and livelihood enhancement opportunities. This is a fallout of not including women in the FPO movement. While there are many justifications and perspectives provided for forming women FPOs, ranging from equality, उनको equal opportunity मिलना चाहिए जैसे मर्द किसानों को मिलता है, equity point of view, efficiency point of view, many resource agencies claim it is much easier to form women FPOs than men FPOs, and also sustainability point of view. women FPOs are found to be more stable, more sustainable. This is also feedback which comes from the ground. However, though these justifications and perspectives are there on why women FPOs are important, the FPOs being business entities, there should be a very strong business case for forming women FPOs. So this year's soil report, we have looked at this aspect. It has a separate chapter on women FPOs. We collected data of 75 women FPOs. Actually, when we started the analysis, हम लोग चाह रहे थे 30 FPOs अगर मिल जाएं complete data, we'll be happy. So we were very, very pleasantly surprised that we had good quality data of almost 75 FPOs. When we analyze the data in terms of business, in terms of their profitability, in terms of their longevity, we see that almost 50% of them were more than 3 years old. And most of them are more in input business. This is what we heard in the earlier session as well, that FPOs generally are more in input business. This trend is there for the women FPOs as well. If we look at the patronage particularly, I think Himanshu was making a point, कितने लोग जो है सचमुच FPO से जोड़े हैं, जो membership है, but सचमुच patronage कितने members से है. What we find is, if the commodity chosen is the primary income earner for the women, there is greater patronage. We found dairy particularly, there is a good patronage, and also in vegetables. So these two value chains, we definitely found a very high. Apart from the poultry. Poultry also, there is a very, very high patronage of the women. And the business interest also was quite high. And we find that women have a comparative advantage in value addition and processing. Many of the women-owned FPOs were progressing towards value addition and processing. One important feedback which we received from some of the key stakeholders, whether in the government or in the consulting firms, large firms who are really taking up FPO formation, is that lack of land ownership among women is a deterrent. Since they don't own land, there is very little case for including them in the FPOs. But this is not the case when we talk to institutions like Access or APMAS or Pradhan, who have worked with women FPOs in larger numbers. We find that this is not the case at all. अगर जमीन महिलाओं के नाम पर है, तब जो है महिलाओं को FPO में जोड़ा जाए, एक किसी ने बताए थे, मगर वो सचमुच कारण नहीं है. महिला जो जिनके नाम पर अगर जमीन नहीं है, वो फिर भी जोड़ सकती है FPO में, फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी में. And the capacity development is very critical. I think Kala will speak more on this, particularly in how do we build the confidence of women, and also how do we reinforce the behavioral changes that are needed for women to really believe themselves in leaders, farmers, and agri-entrepreneurs. Overall, the data very clearly shows that there is a very strong business case for promoting women FPOs. It is, okay, there are other reasons, equality, equity, sustainability, those are good enough reasons, but there is also a very strong reason, business case for forming women FPOs. Almost 81% of these FPOs are in profits. हमारे पास balance sheets काफी नहीं मिले हमको, but whatever data they could give us with that analysis, it looked like 81% of them are in profits. There are good developments in forming and nurturing of women FPOs. The NRLM is forming in large numbers. The SHG producer organization and the FPO route that is really taking strong roots. And we also hear that many civil society organizations who were involved in SHG promotion अभी वो लोग जो है FPO प्रोग्राम में काफ़ी इंटरेस्टेड है. दे आर फॉर्मिंग लार्ज नंबर ऑफ FPOs. And then there are also agri-tech startups who are looking at working with only women FPOs. So these are all very good signs which are there. So given this scenario, we are very keen to learn from the esteemed panelists here on their experience of working with women FPOs, what has worked well, what needs improvement, and also, what is it that they have found in the field as more critical factors that will enable more women FPOs or inclusion of more women into normal FPOs. Thank you very much. So we'll start with you. What has been the experience? You have been part of APMAS, building the capacity of different stakeholders in forming FPOs, and also you are part of Makam, which is promoting, women farmers being how to improve their livelihoods overall. So over to you, Kan.
Thank you. What to say? Women are farmers. They are involved in agriculture. All the activities of agriculture. In any village, if you go and see, women are mostly working in the fields. And we see men only during some seasonal activities, whether plowing or sowing or harvesting and transporting to the market. Women are always there doing all the activities, but they are not there in the institutions. It's unfair. I feel as a woman farmer, it is her basic right, first of all, to be in the institution. I think we all need to recognize that. On the contrary, everyone talks about women's empowerment today. Government, banks, even private institutions. You take any stakeholder in the ecosystem, they all talk about women's empowerment and they say it is our value. But when it comes to practice, supporting women or encouraging women to get into FPOs, that kind of encouragement is lacking. So NGOs like us, Pradhan, APMAS, and few other NGOs, and we come forward to mobilize women and form them into women-led FPOs. And at the same time, we are also promoting mixed FPOs because in farming, we should not neglect men. That's another issue. Today, in all our development activities, we want women to get involved and we neglect men, we neglect boys. And our value system is only for girls, not for boys. And we can see the result, what boys are doing today. I was in one of the villages the other day, and the mothers and the fathers, they were literally crying, I don't know what my son is doing. So here, we should not neglect men farmers also, because the responsibilities are there for both. But being being a farmer and doing all the household work, it becomes very difficult for women to cope up with the drudgery. And many of us, we don't think of that. Women have a lot of barriers. The social norms, the cultural barriers, and the barriers, the context-related barriers. There are a lot of barriers. And also the household responsibilities are with the women. So with all these barriers, and unless if there is encouragement and motivation to women, it will be very difficult to bring them into the institutions. And many stakeholders, like when we promoted women FPOs, under horticulture department, we promoted a women FPO. The official asked why women, they have SHGs. And some bankers, they say, why women, they have SHGs. So women should be there in all the institutions, in the village or in any society. And SHG is a focused strategy to empower women. That doesn't mean women should not be there in other institutions. It's a mainstreaming strategy. Women should be there in all the institutions in the village and at various levels. But we see SHG is enough for women, and then through this, women can be empowered. And that's the problem. Most of the players in the ecosystem, they think SHGs means women, women means HSCs. Why women in FPOs? And these are the questions asked. And it becomes our responsibility, like a civil society organizations or whoever is playing that role of promoting and strengthening FPOs, to sensitize them. There is no such law, actually. No? So it is our responsibility to sensitize them, and people get sensitized. It's not that they are rigid. And slowly, they will change their perspective, and they'll see how women are functioning in the FPOs. That makes them know to believe, to bring in more women FPOs and to support women FPOs. That is our experience. But we haven't gone into the race, actually. Today, the FPOs are formed in 3 months or even 1 month. You identify 10 directors or 12 directors, FPO is registered. That is not the way. Women need that time. That mobilization takes time. And women also need to understand. And the family members also need to understand. Unless that kind of a supporting system is built at the family level, it's very difficult to bring women into the FPOs. That's why in CBBO promoted FPOs, you don't see much women. Whereas the FPOs, the base was strong and the mobilization pace was given importance, we can see women coming into the FPOs. So that's very important. And why are we in the race? I can't understand. Why should we form FPO within a month and only identifying some directors and registering it? That's the wrong way of community mobilization in the first place. And to mobilize women, we need to still give more time. And unless we give that kind of time, and we are all ready to be for that, it will be very difficult to bring in women. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kala.
Thank you very much, Kala. You brought out several valid points. Looking at, the barriers and also, the popular conception that SHGs are enough to improve livelihoods and really connect with the markets. And particularly the last point is, which is very valid, that any mobilization needs time. And this type of hurried registration with just 2-3 members being mobilized and FPO getting formed is not going to be very sustainable. I now turn to Banerjee, because you have formed only women FPOs. Okay, hearty congratulations for that. I think probably you are one of the very few organizations who work with only women FPOs, and also your data shows very robust business, basically, Banerjee. So we are all ears to hear how you have achieved forming only women FPOs and also achieving good results in terms of business.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a privilege to discuss this kind of topic in this forum. I would like to start from where ma'am just ended. Like, she shared a lot of ample data how women FPOs are faring well. But the question starts from, do we believe in those data? How much appreciation we have developed within our ecosystem for the data? So that is the first step, I think, that we should take in order to enable the ecosystem for feminization of the FPO space. The appreciation has to start from the national level to the last mile functionaries. So in Pradhan, we decided that women need to be brought into the core of any economic enterprise, activities. And they not only did wonder, they enthralled us. Be it poultry, be it tasar, be it paddy, they climbed up to the highest point in the value chain, the ladder. And the profits that they have been incurring is, wonderful. Now, having said that, In order to do that, we also had to had cross many roadblocks, which are very essential to talk about when we talk about the enabling ecosystem for women to join in the FPO. Now, ma'am has already mentioned that the land alienation is not a reason, but it's a roadblock. Why am I saying that? The FPO, the assumption of the FPC is, that the farmers are producer. Farmers are not producer. Farmers don't have enough marketable surplus, especially in the tribal pockets where poverty is more pervasive and structural. There are lands, but there requires productivity enhancing technologies to be adapted by the farmers. Now, women find it very complex. The complications start for women from here. They don't have land. So they don't have land to demonstrate the technology. Now, women have even went to the level that to took up the challenge within the negotiation, the level of negotiation they had within the family is unbelievable. Like many of the women had to take up a portion of land from the family with the condition that if the demonstration fails, she will not eat in her house for one whole year. Now, even the demonstration succeed, then also it fails for large scale adaptation because of androcentric resistance to behavioral change, because it's women have demonstrated. So we require a lot of, if line departments could join hands with the women in the process of demonstration, the agriculture department, active participation, vouching for it, and if the commons could be allocated to the women for large scale demonstration for new technology adaptation, then this could to many extent reduce these blockades. And the FPO can actually thrive on its own, the women FPOs. Coming to the next level of issues, see, FPO, for women, managing an FPO requires a skill sets. It requires very different skill sets, which is many level up from SAG institutions. Say, for example, I can cite one example from our paddy program. Like there are traditional traders in the village who aggregate paddy and sell it to the, forward it to other customers. Now, theoretically, if women FPO aggregate the paddy by themselves and directly sell, then they should fetch more income. But in practice, just opposite thing happens. It happens so many times that women themselves aggregated the paddy and sold outside and actually could manage to offer lesser price than what the traditional, traditional trader offered. It requires a hell lot of skills for supply chain management. It requires tremendous amounts of skills in managing their own organization. Now, where is this rural professionals, rural skill set building? I would say the provisions. So I think the universities, research institutions, they should come forward, customize programs for rural women to train them in that particular managerial skills, how to manage a business organization, how to manage a supply chain. So thirdly, if you look at the women on the ground, so NRLM and then 10,000 FPO promotion and then the agricultural infrastructure fund, all this came in succession. You see, for women, it is shifting from SAG coalition to more economy focused FPC, right? Economic activity focused FPC. Now, if you look at the stakeholder mapping for SAG coalitions, the stakeholders are pretty simple. It is within their geography. But in case of FPC, the stakeholders are multidisciplinary. Some stakeholders are within the geography, some stakeholders are distant, stakeholders' requirements are also very different. Now, how to manage this vast array of stakeholders? It requires, again, a tremendous stakeholder management skill in order to business for the success of the business. This can be done by the women. Women have proved that they can manage stakeholders, but that requires a lot of training, exposure, and and men has distinctive advantage here because they are more exposed. So male FPCs have, they are more exposed to market, so they have idea. But women, since they are confined within their household, so they require much more investment. Now the amount allocated to the CBBOs cannot, it doesn't suffice to do all the things. It's not possible. Equity grant, matching equity grant under the 10,000 CBBO program is a very welcome step. But all the FPOs are not within the fold of 10,000 CBBO program. And the cost of incorporating an FPC has been increased many fold in recent times, like the getting a DSC, digital signature, which was earlier used to cost 500 rupees, now has increased up to 1500. Now, if provisions could be created that if a FPO is going to be registered all women, if these prices could be slashed, or there is a departmental support for all the getting the compliances done, or something of that support can actually increase the women's participation, larger feminization. I have two more points to make. So another major alienation, we see that women are pushed out of market. It's not that women don't have the skills for marketing, but they are pushed out of the market. Our experiences in Jharkhand, Bihar, and mostly Jharkhand, Bihar, and parts of Odisha has been distressing. Women are sexually harassed, heckled, and eventually pushed out. Again, men has distinctive advantage here over women FPCs. So if some provisions could be made, for a designated area for women to sell in the mandi, local mandi, or if it could be mandated that a certain percentage of the trading of the local mandi should come from women FPCs, then it could go a long way. These supports are actually very required. Also, in terms of when women are transporting, transport is another area where major distress happen for the women. So if the local administration and concerned authority could take cognizance of that and actually support women in all these regards, then it will create a facilitative environment for women to join the FPC. So basically, to manage multiple stakeholders, all stakeholders has to join hands. And I will end with my last point. I know it's taking longer. So my last point is that, all these, what I have been talking, can create conditional changes for women to participate. But what about their positional changes? So when I say positional changes, like if the engendering process has to go a long way, then the locus of control, like we very recently we conducted a survey. It's a scientific survey based on behavioral economics and few other aspects in all 7 FPCs in Jharkhand, Odisha, and West Bengal. And we found that women did good in all the categories except the category where locus of control is concerned. And they have scored very, low on that. I think my Kalamni ma'am has also spoken about the empowerment. So shifting the LOC from outside to inside is one of the parameter for empowerment. Otherwise, feminization in the FPO will result in proxy membership. So we have also achieved feminization in 100 days work. So I think now I don't have any ready-made answer to that. How can we achieve that? But in my understanding, limited understanding, I could only urge that a lot of feminist organizations should also join hands in this APC promotion, and indicators like WEAI, could be integrated into this APC promotion program to assess it, how the empowerment, or actually how much the women are owning their FPCs. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sorangshu. You brought out, several aspects of how you have gone about mobilization, and also how, women need to be capacitated, and the several aspects on which the capacity building needs to be done. And particularly the market linkages aspect which you highlighted. This is what I will pose as a question to your next speaker. Aline, over to you on how being NCDX and, how do you really enable women to participate in markets?
Namaskar. At the onset, thank you very much, and be really pleasure to eminent panelist और जो हमारे कृषि बंधु जो दूर से आए हुए हैं उनको भी नमस्कार. थोड़ा सा ये यूजिंग इंग्लिश इफ इट्स ओके मेरे ख्याल सबके लिए. हम NCDX मैं रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ यहाँ. NCDX जो है एक वायदा बाजार है. वायदा बाजार का मतलब जहाँ कृषि के जो प्रोड्यूस हैं उसके भाव जो है तय होते हैं, तय क्रय मूल्य तय होता है. और हमारे यहाँ काफ़ी सारे जो कृषि संगठन हैं, FPOs हैं, वो हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं पिछले 4-5 साल से. करीब 500 के करीब कृषि संगठन हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं जो कि हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म के तहत खरीद बेच करते हैं. और ये 12-15 राज्य में फैले हुए हैं. इसमें से एक ज़रूरी बात तो ये समझ में आई कि जो चैलेंजेस हैं, जो मेन एस्पेक्ट है हमारे इस चर्चा का विषय जो है कि कैसे वुमेन लेड FPOs कैन बी मोर रेजिलिएंट. उसमें सबसे बड़ा चैलेंजेस जो आप लोगों ने सबने बताया कि जो सोशल नॉर्म्स है, स्ट्रक्चरल नॉर्म्स है, वो तो है. तो उसमें उस तरीके से मैं नहीं जा रहा. जो बाजार के संबंध जो चीज़ें हैं, जो मार्केट के बारे में जो बात हम करना चाहते हैं, हमने ये देखा है कि कांस्टेंट टच बेस, जो कांस्टेंट ट्रेनिंग है, लगातार उनके साथ बातचीत करते रहना, ट्रेनिंग करते रहना, उनको दिखाना, खाली बोलने से काम नहीं होता है, उनको दिखाना, उनको सिखाना. ये जो एक कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल बढ़ता है, उस बाजार के जो प्रक्रिया में पार्टिसिपेट करने में बहुत मदद मिलता है. तो एक उदाहरण स्वरूप मैं आपको बोलूँगा कि हम यहाँ SRLM का जिक्र हुआ, जीविका का जिक्र हुआ यहाँ, और हम जो है बिहार में जीविका के कुछ FPOs के साथ पूर्णिया जिला में हम काम करते हैं और अभी भी कर ही रहे हैं. शुरू में हमें बहुत परेशानी हुई समझाना, कैसे समझाए, क्योंकि वायदा बाजार थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है कि भाव, मक्के का भाव कैसे मोल भाव होता है, उसकी क्वालिटी कैसी है, उसके मॉइस्चर कैसा है, उसका बाजार किस भाव में उसको लेगा. तो ये जो हैंड होल्डिंग है करते करते हमने ये पाया. आज के तारीख में मैं इस संक्षेप में ये कहना आप लोगों के साथ साझा ये करना चाहता हूँ. आज के तारीख में जो वहाँ के FPO के बोर्ड ऑफ मेंबर्स हैं, CEOs हैं, वो जो सारे लेडीज हैं, वो यहाँ ऐसे मंच में बैठ के आपको वायदा बाजार समझाने का क्षमता रखती हैं. तो उनको हम वहाँ तक लेके गए हैं. और ये ले जाने का प्रक्रिया छोटा नहीं है, वो 1 साल 2 साल का नहीं है, ये काफ़ी लंबा प्रक्रिया है. और मेरा एक सौभाग्य ये था, पिछले साल हमने एक ऐसी 2 महिला डॉक्टर को हम जो है मसूरी में IAS ऑफिसर ट्रेनिंग कॉलेज लेके गए थे. मैं भी साथ में था और उन्होंने IAS ऑफिसर्स को समझाया कि वायदा बाजार में क्या क्या फ़ायदा हुआ. अब जहाँ तक मेरे ख्याल शोरांशु वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट पावर शिफ्ट, तो एक पावर शिफ्ट का एक उदाहरण मैं आपको देना चाहता हूँ. जब वहाँ से मक्के का बिहार में पूर्णिया जिला में मक्के की खरीदारी होती थी, तो वहाँ भी लोकल ट्रेडर्स हैं, क्योंकि आप लोगों को मालूम होगा, हो सकता है कि बिहार में मंडी नहीं है. अब बिहार में क्योंकि मंडी नहीं है, मक्का जो है किसी भी जगह पे आता है और वहाँ से लोकल किसानों से लोकली खरीदा जाता है और लोकल एग्रीगेटर्स होते हैं. शुरू में वहाँ ना वजन का कांटा ठीक था, ना उनके पास मॉइस्चर मीटर था, तो ये काफ़ी जो है उसमें चैलेंज आते थे. जैसे ही हम ये बाजार, हम वायदा बाजार उनको लेके गए, ट्रेनिंग दिया, सिखाते सिखाते आज के तारीख में जो वहां के बाकी जो ट्रेडर्स हैं वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक काटा इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वो मॉइस्चर मीटर इस्तेमाल करते हैं, और मोल भाव जो है हमारे वहां दीदिया जीविका के दीदिया करती है। तो ये जो पावर शिफ्ट है, इट्स पॉसिबल, यस, पर ये समय चाहिए इसके लिए समय चाहिए, इसके लिए डेडिकेटेड रिसोर्सेस चाहिए, इसके लिए डेडिकेटेड ट्रेनिंग चाहिए, और एक्चुअल वैल्यू चेन में काम करने की जरूरत है। पॉलिसीज, यस, पॉलिसीज चेंजेस जरूरत है। लैंड टाइटल डेफिनेटली एन इशू। एक मैम, आई थिंक यू टच बेस की जो है जेंडर न्यूट्रल और मिक्स जेंडर एफपीओज आर आल्सो, पर हमारे, मेरे ख्याल, मेरे पर्सनल अगर मैं बोलूं कि प्योर वुमेन लेड एफपीओज शुड बी द फोकस। द रीजन इज वन थिंग जो बैनर्जी ने भी बोला, सुधांशु ने, कि जो पावर शिफ्ट वो जरूरी है। द डिसीजन मेकिंग may be wrong, may be right, that's a separate issue, but the power to make decisions वो जरूरी है, वो देना। तो एक तो वो बहुत मेरे ख्याल, और वो तभी आ सकता है जब उनको लेके आप, जब सोशल नॉर्म्स, वो आई एम नॉट गेटिंग इनटू दैट कंट्रोवर्शियल एस्पेक्ट्स, वो काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें हैं उसमें, पर वो अगर आपको, वो आप निकल जाते हैं तो फिर उनको खुद को सारे काम संभालना जरूरी है, वो डिसीजंस लेना उनके लिए जरूरी है, तो वहीं से वो आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। और ये हमारा अनुभव यही कहता है बिहार में भी, और हमने हमारे सौभाग्य है कुछ हमने जीविका के अगेन एफपीओ के साथ काम किए हैं, जो क्योंकि वो ऑल वुमेन लेड ही हैं, राजस्थान में भी राजीव कवि के साथ भी, तो एक ये बहुत जरूरी है। दूसरा, एक जो अगर को जेंडर बेस्ड एफपीओज हैं भी, जो उनको अगर एमलगमेशन की हम बात करते हैं, ये सीबीबीओस को जो चले आ रहे हैं वो बात अलग है, पर जो नए बन रहे हैं या इन द प्रोसेसेस हैं, उनको एक जरूरी ये चीजें देखनी है। देयर आर सर्टेन टास्क्स विच आर बेटर परफॉर्म्ड। इन माय एक्सपीरियंस, आई हैव ग्रोन क्रॉप्स, आई हैव एक्सपोर्टेड क्रॉप्स, फॉर क्यूसी पर्पस, फॉर अकाउंटिंग पर्पस, आई हैव ऑलवेज यूज्ड वुमेन। The reason is not because men are lazy, which we are a little bit, but reason is eye for detail. Ma'am, I used to export roses. They are very sensitive to quality, and wo eye for detail is led by a woman team. We didn't had anything else. So we need to understand वो job specificity. Job specificity से power develop होता है, skill set develop होता है, confidence develop होता है to go to the next level. I think ये सोचना जरूरी है कि किस तरीके का task हम even co-gendered में हम देना चाह रहे हैं. And of course, I think there are a lot of policy aspects which I think I will touch base थोड़ा सा later. बट एक चीज मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा, वेदर इट्स को-जेंडर्ड या फिर वुमेन लेड, जो कि जरूरी है, ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो लोकल लेवल में गांव को, उस जिले को, उस ब्लॉक को जरूरत पड़ती है। आई थिंक क्योंकि हम एफपीओ और यहाँ मेरे ख्याल स्पेसिफिकली हम एफपीसीज की बात कर रहे हैं, तो इट हैज टू बी अ बिजनेस एंटिटी, क्योंकि उसको प्रॉफिटेबल होना है। आप एक या दो चीज पकड़िए, लोकल डिमांड को आइडेंटिफाई करिए, उसको फुलफिल करने की कोशिश करिए। आई थिंक प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी जैसी आएगी, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी आने से कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल बनेगा, दूसरे लोग भी, गांव के दूसरे लोग भी फिर सुनना चालू करते हैं। नहीं तो जो सोशल नॉर्म और जो शिफ्टिंग ऑफ पावर इशू है, इट्स अ वेरी वेरी टफ कॉल एंड इट टेक्स लॉन्गर टाइम। तीसरा, आई थिंक द एक्सेस टू ट्रेनिंग, एंड क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चरल में वैल्यू चेन में देयर आर टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट्स। जब भी आप नेक्स्ट लेवल पे जाना चाह रहे हैं, अगर आप गांव से ब्लॉक में बेचना चाहते हैं, ब्लॉक से डिस्ट्रिक्ट में बेचना चाहते हैं, या आप डिस्ट्रिक्ट से डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर होलसेलर से आप इनपुट खरीदना चाहते हैं, इट नीड्स डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ अ टैक्ट, डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ अ डिस्कशन, डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ टेक्निकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग। अगर आप इनपुट कर रहे हैं, इनपुट में आपको ये जानना जरूरी है कि केमिकल्स कितने दिन स्टोर करते हैं, उसका रनिंग साइकिल क्या है। तो आई थिंक व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू गिव वेरी स्पेसिफिक ट्रेनिंग कैप्सूल्स फॉर दीज पीपल। And once we do that, of course, it's required for men also, but women, I think, with my experience, they can pick these things up very easily and build businesses which are local. Then we will come to the output side, which is a little bit more complicated than the input business. I will stop at this point in time, I guess. Thank you very much.
So heartening to hear linking of women's groups to NCDX platform. We would like to know more from you in the subsequent question. You know, what particularly, how did you operationalize it, and you know, how do you really scale it up to more number of women FPOs? We would like to know more from you. And also you touched upon again the capacity building aspects, which are very, very fundamental. I think I'll have one more round with all of you on how do we really structure these capacity building and what do we need to do. But the last point which you mentioned about financing, we have an excellent financier here. The very name suggests, you know, it's Friends of Women and World Banking. So over to you, Mr. Bhatt, on the contributions of FWWB in furthering the women FPO cause.
थैंक यू मैम। हमने देखा है इधर पहले जो सेशन हुआ था उसमें पूरा एपीओस के बारे में डिस्कस किया गया और उसमें जो 5 या 6 लोग बैठे थे पूरे मेन थे, पुरुष थे। अभी जो सेकंड आया है एंजेंडरिंग फेमिनाइजिंग द एपीओस, इसमें 2 वुमेन है। इट्स ए इवोल्यूशन। I think everywhere evolution works. But the women, once they start doing, they will leave behind the men and go forward. I think ये महिलाएं के इनके ताकत है कि इनको men को पीछे छोड़ के आगे भाग जाएंगे अभी, and they will be the competitor for the men FPOs or the mixed FPOs going forward. That is the belief and that is the confidence they have. Stepping back a little on Friends of Women's World Banking India, so actually ये जो महिलाओं का सशक्त करने के लिए जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, हम काफ़ी साल से इस काम में जुड़े हुए हैं। हम ये जो लो इनकम है या स्मॉल एंड मार्जिनल फार्मर्स है उनके साथ काम करते हैं। उनको क्या करते हैं, उनको सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस, जो एलन जी बोल रहे थे कि वुमेन के साथ सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए, दे हैव टू बिकम सेल्फ रिलायंट, वो कैसे देते हैं? उनको थोड़ा कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग देते हैं, ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, कैसा करने का, हाउ टू मूव सोशली, वो सब देते हैं। और उसके बाद थोड़ा फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के बारे में, जो फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज है, जो आर्थिकता के बारे में क्या जानने का है उसके बारे में समझाते हैं, और फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट्स क्या है उसको ये समझा के उनको समाज में आगे बढ़ने के लिए एक रास्ता दिखाते हैं। एंड हमने देखा है कि इस काफ़ी साल में जो FWWB ने शुरू किया, माइक्रो फाइनेंस मूवमेंट शुरू किया, उसमें अभी काफ़ी 60 मिलियन वुमेन जुड़े हैं। और जो SHG के साथ शुरू किया 500 ग्रुप से शुरू हुआ था, अभी 10 मिलियन ग्रुप्स हो गया। ऐसा एवोल्यूशन इज दैट, ये भी वुमेन FPOs भी ऐसा है। उसके साथ हमारा जर्नी जो FPO में शुरू हुआ वो करीब 12 साल के पहले, आई थिंक नो अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैड थॉट दैट FPO इज वन सेगमेंट विच वी कैन एंटर एंड डू सम वर्क। In 2011-12 we started that work, and see the thing is at that point of time farmer collectives have to be supported. We need to give them some capacity building, we need to give them some credit. When working with these farmer collectives in the field, we understood that there are women who are working in the field. About majority of theirs, ma'am was mentioning, जो भी काम करते हैं महिलाएं करते हैं, मगर उनका ध्वनि आगे नहीं आता है। जो वॉइस इज नॉट हर्ड दैट, वुमन का वॉइस, उसको रिलेट करते हुए हमने सोचा कि ये FPO मूवमेंट में हम महिलाओं को भी आगे लेके आना चाहिए। हम वो ओवरनाइट में कर नहीं सकते हैं उसको। इस वजह से हमने क्या सोचा, उनको महिलाओं को पहले जो मेंबरशिप में जुड़ना, मेंबरशिप में जुड़ने के लिए उनका उसके बारे में जानकारी होना चाहिए। ये एफपीओस क्या होता है, क्यों बनाते हैं हम, उसको कैसे चलाते हैं, उससे क्या फायदा है हमें, उसको महिलाओं को एक अवेयरनेस कैंप करके उनको बोल के ऐसा ऐसा है, आप मेंबर बन जाओ इस एफपीओ में, जो भी एफपीओ है वो उसमें मेंबर बन जाओ। उससे हमने शुरू किया। देन वी स्टार्टेड दैट, उनको जो एफपीओस हम काम कर रहे थे उनको बताया कि आपके बोर्ड मेंबर्स में कितनी वुमन है, महिलाएं हैं। सम एफपीओस टोल्ड हमारे साथ कोई भी नहीं है, और एक दो था, एक वुमन मेंबर था। मगर हमने बोला जब आप बोर्ड नेक्स्ट रिवाइज करते हैं आपको इसमें 2 या 3 महिलाओं को लेना चाहिए। जो भी आप समझ सकते हैं कि इस व्यवहार में जुड़े हुए हैं, जिनका भी कोई जानकारी है, जो एसएचजी में काम किया है, उनको ले लीजिए। ऐसे वी प्रमोटेड दैट women to come forward in the membership and also in the board. In the process, we were providing credit to these FPOs also. Say in small terms, maybe when they were established, they did not know how to conduct the business, what are the things. What we felt was, one is credit is also very important. When we built the capacity, the FPOs said that we do not have capital to do the business. At that point of time, we provided small doses of capital to start with 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs करके, then उनको जो जैसे बिजनेस कैसे बनाने का है उसको भी सिखाया। And at that point of time, what we did, if that FPO was not having any membership, we told, if you are increasing the membership to 30%, we'll give you 1% interest concession in that. That was one incentive provided to them. Then second thing was, within 1 year, if there are no board members, you need to induct at least 2 board members, women board members. If you need help, we'll give the help in identifying who are the competent women to join the board. आप हम सर्वे करेंगे, बात करेंगे महिलाओं से, उनको बात करके जो भी सशक्त हैं बोर्ड में जुड़े होने के लिए, उनको we'll identify. But you should, if you are inducting at least 2 in the next 1 year, we'll give you some interest concession and also some capacity building. आपको जो भी टेक्निकल सर्विसेज का सहायता चाहिए उसको बारे में दे दिया। ऐसे I think it has evolved like that. And now when we started, it was all men FPCs or somewhere mixed FPCs. अभी हमारा पोर्टफोलियो जो भी हमने सपोर्ट किया है एफपीओस में, एक वुमन एफपीओ है, ऑल वुमेन एफपीओ, वुमन लेड एफपीओ, which is doing more than 12 crores of business. That is the evolution which they were doing, say about 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs like that. The other thing is, when we started with the FPOs, it was say 100% many FPOs to start with. अभी हमारा पोर्टफोलियो में 50% FPOs are all women FPOs. ऑल वुमेन एफपीओस, उनको जो भी सहायता चाहिए, नए जो हम इस पॉलिसी में डिसाइड किया है कि जब हम फर्दर असिस्ट करते हैं, वी विल असिस्ट ऑल वुमेन एफपीओस और मेजॉरिटी वुमेन एफपीओस और वुमेन लेड एफपीओस, वेयर देयर इज एनकरेजमेंट फॉर वुमेन to join this movement and try to learn what is happening in this field. In that way, we are trying to build, as an organization, we are trying to build the ecosystem to participate, greater participation of women in this ecosystem. I think it has been a very good and satisfying journey for FWWB in seeing that women are coming forward, महिलाएं आगे आ रहे हैं और इसमें सशक्त and excellent participation they are making in this. And last month we had a conference, सेवा का conference था, उसमें I think प्रधान promoted कुंटी डिस्ट्रिक्ट का एक president, FPC का president आए, and she was speaking in the plenary session wherein almost 500 participants were there. And there were other very important personalities on the dais. But she spoke so well. झारखंड से very remote corner से जो आए हुए हैं, She would not have spoken in other conferences earlier. But she spoke so well about how they have been able to develop their FPC and how they have been able to help their members and what is their aim, what is the vision. She was able to express the vision for the next 5 years, how we can develop our FPC. That is the encouragement women have got, and that is the entitlement they have now to see that yes, we can come forward and develop this. In that way, I think there is lot of opportunity. Only time will tell that definitely women are capable of running this and they will be the leaders in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatt. Obviously, FWWB has been pro-women and also has been very enabling, financing for women FPOs. And I think FWWB also was one of the early lenders for the whole FPO movement. And very heartening to hear the examples of the growth and, how you went about ensuring that women were in the governance and women were more purposively included in the membership. Really very heartening. I'm just asking both Kala and Banerjee, are there any additional barriers to financing of women FPOs? When you try to link with the finances, do you find that, FPO, also said and done, FWWB is one of the financiers, but you will be definitely talking to more financiers. Do you find any additional barriers, or is it easy to raise finance for women FPOs? Over to you, Banerjee, first.
Hello. See, the finance world has evolved a lot. Like in the previous session, Sir also mentioned that, so getting finance is easier than previously, I mean, the earlier days. But still, the finance is sticky, Like to get a Kishan credit card, finance from the Kishan credit card, which is the most suitable for women in the rural context. Now, in the guideline, it is very concretely mentioned that you don't need to have land under your name in order to qualify as a farmer. But that does not percolate well in the functionaries, the bank functionaries. So the stickiness of finance, in our economy still continues in case of men to women, so that way. Otherwise, the private financing the organizations, so it is easier to raise finance from them. They have also lesser relaxation on the various conditions. So that way it is easier to get finance, but mainstream finance is still a question.
Okay. I think this is what continues with the last session as well, that we seem to have more financing now, but still the mainstream financing from the banks and public sector, private sector banks to come in is still an issue. Kala, how has been your experience?
Yeah, it's almost same. When women in the FPOs, when they go to banks for loans, bankers, they say they already have loans because SHGs, they must have taken loans. So they say this and then this becomes a constraint. And the bankers also, it's not very keen to support women FPOs. This constraint is there. I think the system needs sensitization. But private institutions like Samanidhi and all, they are forthcoming and they are interested in supporting women FPOs.
I have one point to make.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing is, availing the credit from the mainstream financial institutions. Another thing is also like the banks are not very keen to in having an FPO account, because lot of transaction, mostly the rural branches are thinly staffed. So they staff. So they see that having an FPO account is an extra burden to their already existing tasks. So you won't believe, like, in order to open a bank account, although all the registration process was completed, it took 1 month, 2 months, in some cases 6 months also, and we had to contact with the regional level in order to get it done at the village level. So it's not only credit, but also, the normal banking functions is still a concern.
And also to women, they are directors of the FPOs. They don't have documents. That's another constraint. And their name in Aadhaar card or their name in some other card will be different. Unless these are all match, the banks will not open an account. This is also a constraint, and we are doing a lot of awareness on this. And we also told NRLM to give this kind of awareness in the SHG meetings, that their name should be the same, and whether it's spelling or date of birth. These are the common mistakes. This took really a lot of time to get the DIN numbers for the directors. Yeah. I think you were highlighted on both policy level and also the operational in really opening accounts and getting the basic documents right. What kind of challenges you are facing on the ground. I think this translates again to, some amount of capacity building, and all of you touched upon, the capacity building requirements, which are very different from the normal, FPO capacity building. I would like you to elaborate on this, okay? You also mentioned, I think, Suranshu, on the current guidelines being somewhat gender agnostic, and it is one size which fits all. So what exactly are different in terms of women FPO capacity building, and what changes would you really like to see in the current guidelines, basically?
The current guidelines does not take into account, by participating in the FPC, what is the changes in the decision making level happening within the women. So, so are they transiting towards modern farmer?
Okay. Actually, this is very dire need subject in this engendering FEOs subject. But actually, the main obstacle of participation of women, this is a policy level problem also recently we faced. Who are the directors of FEO directors are facing all the government schemes, they're losing their government schemes because of the PAN DIN number and also IT returns also on the name of FEO. So immediately government removing all government schemes like in Andhra Pradesh, so many schemes including that white ration card including. So this is the main biggest obstacle for at least so somehow women are came forward to farming FEOs and participating in FEOs. They're the basic like మోకాలు చెప్పులు ఎరగొట్టినట్టు అయింది. ఇంకా ఫ్యాక్ట్గా చెప్పాలంటే చాలా వరకు విమెన్ అంతా అక్కడే ఆగిపోయారు. రెండవది ఫైనాన్సింగ్ టు విమెన్ FEOs, దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ద ప్రాబ్లం. ఫైనాన్సింగ్ టు FEOs is the problem. Still today, any national bank came forward to give financing to FEOs. This is the biggest dilemma. We are addressing this issue in many platforms, state level platforms also, but everybody happy, okay, we will do like that, but practically in the rural area, rural branch managers not came forward to giving financing to FEOs. And also women FEOs is the biggest question. And second thing, for that what we done from our Arogya FEO, we form into a joint liability groups with the support of NABARD. So through joint liability groups, we done that financial linkage to all the members of our FEO. So we reached that obstacle. But any banker, any financial institution, only after 3 years business plan, balance sheet only, they came forward to give financial support. But initial stage we need, not after 3 years, after 5 years. Actually initial stage, within 1 year, we need that financial support to get our do business or procurement of grain or anything. But initial stage nobody are giving, only after 3 years, after 5 years. Even Even NABARD also giving BDA support after 3 years. Now, initial is only 5 years after only. So these are the obstacles. And another thing is biggest question, biggest obstacle of women participation. So no women are having land on their name. So registration of FEO, the first and foremost criteria is you have to prove I am a farmer. So that is the biggest question. So no, even VRO also gave certificate to she is a woman. Nobody are recognizing. So that also biggest barrier in participating in BOD member. So if she may be in a member of FEO, but not chance to in a board of director. So that is also one. So we have to do so many policy level changes if we want to increase women participation in FEOs. We have to do so many policy level changes, ma'am. Thank you.
Excellent points, Didi. I think Access will definitely take some of these up, but I think we should have more discussions with the mainstream bankers. That is very important. And also some of the documents of, how you are proven to be women farmers. I think there is more work to be done. Thank you so much for raising those points. दीदी आप लोग भी आए हैं गांव में से, आप किसान हो, आपको कुछ कहना चाहते हैं कैसे और महिलाओं को FPO में जोड़ सकते हैं? क्या मुश्किलें आप फेस कर रही है? एंड हाउ यू कैन कैसे आपका कोई सुझाव है क्या मोर विमेन FPO फॉर्म करने के लिए, महिलाओं का FPO मूवमेंट में जोड़ने के लिए कोई और से कोई सुझाव है तो इट इज वेरी वेलकम. ठीक है, आप सोच कर रखिए. दिस क्वेश्चन इज ओपन. आप जब भी आप तैयार हो आप हाथ उठाइए, फिर आपके हाथ में माइक आ जाएगा. Okay, yeah, please.
On the finance side, I think under the FPC ROC Act, there is under Chapter 7 581 ZK, it allows FPCs to lend its shareholder. Right, so it's there. पर अभी तक मेरे ख्याल कोई भी नहीं, आपको तो पक्का मालूम ही होगा, बट मेरे को नहीं लगता कि FPOs और FPCs को ये चीज मालूम है कि they can take loan from NABKisan or Samunnati and then further lend it. To act as a lending agency itself to their shareholder. I think that should be also be explored. Why not? Because globally, if you look at it, when I received this, I was going through कुछ international papers जो हैं. Very specific farmers, I mean using the word cooperatives, क्योंकि globally इस word को cooperative इस्तेमाल करते हैं, इंडिया में नहीं करते because of the legal issue. Cooperatives जो बने हैं, they are very specific. Rabo Foundation is a farmers cooperative started. Finance, it's only started with finance. So very specific aspects. Limoges in France, world's largest seed company, is a cooperative company. So, in addition to that, I just wanted to highlight why I am talking about very value chain specific aspect. I was working in Ghana. There's a whole tomato supply chain from Kumashi to Accra. It's controlled by women. They are the governing decisions. वो माल लेते हैं किसान से, वो wholesale trucker से बात करते हैं, वो Accra में. So I think it's possible when you do very specific value chain based activity. Instead of going too many, then financiers will fund you, buyers will listen to you, because you need to learn their language, किस भाषा में बात करनी है, terms of the trade क्या है. So I think that's very important aspect. So just before just one more aspect, ma'am, I think I just wanted to highlight. Actually ये जो board membership वगैरह वाला जो issue है, I think the ma'am has raised, it's very, very important. Not only board membership, I think CBBOs has to see that whether she would be able to have a decision making and a signing of authority in that. And that will again lead to the empowerment and decision making.
या जैसे अलन जी ने बता रहे थे कि मेंबर्स को लोन दे सकते हैं, मगर हम FWW में एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया जो अल्टरनेट लाइवलीहुड जनरेट करने के लिए, जो एपीसी कैटल रेयरिंग करते हैं या गोट रेयरिंग करते हैं या फिशरी करते हैं या इवन क्रॉप लोन करते हैं, उसमें उनका हमारा एक्सपीरियंस ये रहा कि FPCs are not able to manage the online lending business, because unless they get the expertise, maybe 2-3 साल आप डायरेक्टली FPC में लोन लेके प्रोक्योरमेंट, इनपुट बिजनेस एंड टेक्निकल एडवाइजरी सर्विस करने के बाद जब आपके पास सिस्टम्स और प्रोसेसेस डेवलप हो जाता है, जो इस लोन्स वगैरह देखने के लिए कोई आदमी होते हैं कि फॉलोअप करने के लिए कौन क्या लिया है, उसको लोन लेके क्या कर रहा है, उससे कुछ टाई अप अरेंजमेंट है क्या, वो होने के बाद ही हम मेंबर्स को लोन के लिए सख्त होते हैं. अदरवाइज इट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट थिंग फॉर द एफपीओ टू मैनेज दैट बिजनेस. इंडिविजुअल मेंबर लोन का मैनेज बिजनेस करने के लिए, दो देर आर प्रोविजंस, इट वुड बी डिफिकल्ट फॉर देम टू मैनेज दैट लेंडिंग. Initially, they can start. One is input business. Normally, all the FPCs start with the input business. Then they move to the output procurement. Output procurement में ज़्यादा experience हो जाता है. Many members get involved. Then they can go for, once the systems are developed, they can go for the on lending, where different types of alternate livelihood के लिए उनको ये हो जाता है. एक जो क्वेश्चन है मैडम ने पूछा था कि that डिन नंबर आने के बाद ये सोशल सिक्योरिटी का जो बेनिफिट्स हो जाता है, आई थिंक दैट हैज़ टू बी एड्रेस. आई थिंक यू नीड टू गिव ए डिक्लेरेशन दैट द इनकम लेवल के बारे में डिक्लेरेशन देना चाहिए कि दो आई एम ए डायरेक्टर, माई इनकम लेवल इज लाइक दिस एंड आई होल्ड कंटिन्यू टू होल्ड दैट बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन और वट एवर द वाइट कार्ड और द ब्लू कार्ड. दैट डिक्लेरेशन हैज़ टू बी गिवन, देन दैट बेनिफिट वुड बी रिस्टोर्ड.
Thank you. Kala,
Yeah, I have taken up this issue that schemes are being withdrawn because they are having PAN card and they are directors and so with the NRLM. Because to take up this in SAG framework and also with the authorities. And here when we say women need to be in the institutions, we need to have both the strategies, focused strategy and mainstreaming strategy. Focused strategy promoting women only FPOs, and mainstreaming strategy bringing women in the FPOs as members, leaders in decision making positions. And I don't believe in 1/3. No, when women are 50% in the population and women are 80% in agriculture, why should we say only 30% or 1/3 in membership in FPOs? That's very unfair. So I believe in proportionate membership, if not proportionate in population. So in APMAS, we believe minimum 50% women should be their members as leaders in all positions, subcommittees, and also in check signatory authority. So that's how we are moving ahead. And we need to provide, see, women and men farmers are not at the same level in the level playing ground. No? Though they are doing all the farming, but in aspects of talking to market players or mobility, in so many aspects, they lag behind. So we need to focus and invest a lot on building those capacities, skills, capacities, and it's an ongoing process. It's not one time. And also now technology is playing a major role. For example, during COVID time, we gave online training. Only men farmers, they came. The women, because they don't have a smartphone. Just imagine, they are in SAG movement for 20 years, but still they have not created assets. No, that's the problem. No, so then we need to work a lot in that aspect. You know, technology and access to resources. Unless we invest and we train women on that, and also now FPOs are managing custom hiring centers, machineries. I always say, have women as a manager of that custom hiring center. Train women in repairing those machineries. Train women in using those machineries. Unless we focus in all these areas, I think it will be only superficial. And if we really mean women's empowerment, in the morning session, there was a saying that when we talk about climate change related activities, it's not a one activity, we have to think in every aspect. Similarly, women's empowerment, women farmers empowerment, we need to think of in each and every aspect. Then only we can empower women.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Thank you.
Kala. Thank you. Well said. And are there any questions from anyone? Yes.
Yeah.
or engendering FPCs. Yeah. So if we see the sector like health sector, more women are there, but at decision level or at any power positions, you will not find that kind of dynamics. Even if we talk about the household level, even though there is a 50% kind of participation, but if it comes to the economy, there is like lack of women's participation into it. I believe that only women focused SHGs can work. Otherwise, even though we say that 50% women can, that FPO will work, but there is like one kind of challenge. Women will be into the service, providing farm machinery knowledge or services to the other farmers, but not in a market. So selling or taking decisions in selling the farm produce. So I just want your experience into dealing with the such mixed FPCs, and is there any challenges you can mention here? What I am realizing.
It's a question to Mr. Banerjee, and also a suggestion that when we talk of empowering women and their participation, the first thing is that sensitization of men, because then you enhance their mobility and then they participate. And in terms of the demonstration, you said if women can help the entire household in getting the food, why not men can help in the demonstration activity? And you said that in Jharkhand, if some provision can be made for women, look, market works on law of supply and demand. And now most of the commodities have the international price, so you cannot influence. So just food for the thought. Thank you very much.
Are there, maybe you would like to reply to that briefly?
In the mixed FPCs or FPOs, we see to that more women are there in the leadership position. So they are not single and they are not alone when they go to discuss with the market players or in taking any decision. And also we, as he said, we do a lot of sensitization to fellow farmers and also the family members. So it's not a so easy task to break the traditional mindsets. No, it takes time. The gender barriers are deep-rooted, and we should not keep quiet. We should start sensitizing the fellow farmers, the members of the FPOs, and the family members, and the ecosystem players. I think it's not just working with women, but we need to work with the players in the ecosystem. It should start at the family level and the ecosystem within the village and the larger ecosystem. So unless we spend enough time and efforts, it's a long way to go. Yeah. And we do see women participating in mixed FPOs, in participating in marketing and other aspects. Yeah.
Thank you. There is one more hand going up there.
Excellent session, I believe. The various aspects that the panel members have emphasized on point to a very, very deep-rooted mobilization and all those efforts which are done by the grassroots organizations or the NGOs which are closest to the villages. So any if maybe we are not aware of that, various programs, or are there any initiatives in which building of capacities of these grassroots organization can also be focused? Because we've been working in Bharuch district, we formed 300 and more SHGs. We are struggling with our FPO. And again, the thing of bank linkages, and the weakest portion is again, marketing efforts and all the business development. So are there any avenues where the grassroots organizations capacities in handling and taking the SHGs to one step ahead, or the FPOs to one step ahead, are possible? I would love to hear from the panel.
There are a number of initiatives which are happening in taking the SHGs to the next level. That is happening. And also the capacity building of grassroots organizations, particularly the FPOs themselves. There are a number of courses which are available, including excellent online courses. I think you could talk to any of them on the side. There are a number of such initiatives. We'll be very happy to connect you with them. Okay, thank you. I would, yeah. Is there anybody else? Yeah, please.
100 करोड़ से ज़्यादा फाइनेंसिंग किया होगा एफपीओ की। जैसे बात बोल रहे हैं कि किस तरह का कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग चाहिए होता है, मैं एक दो एग्जांपल देता हूँ। जब हम मानते हैं कि वो एक बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज की तरह,
come to the question please, we are running out of time.
Sure.
Please be very focused on the question.
अच्छा, मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि किस तरह का कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग होना चाहिए। सिर्फ एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट का। एक होता है कि आप कैपेक्स, आप असेट बना लीजिए। गवर्नमेंट का बहुत सारा स्कीम है। एक स्कीम था जिसमें 3-4 लाख रुपए आप अपना लगाइए, 14-15 लाख रुपए गवर्नमेंट देगी। लोग एफपीओज ने असेट बना लिए, हुआ क्या, वो असेट का यूज ही नहीं हो रहा है। उससे क्या हुआ, एफपीओ उस पर डेप्रिसिएशन भी बुक कर रहा है। अब उस एफपीओ उस असेट को बेच नहीं पा रहा है। उस असेट की सेफ कीपिंग के लिए एक्स्ट्रा स्टाफ रख के पैसा कर, तो वो फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट, वो जो कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग चाहिए ना आपको, वो आई थिंक थोड़ा सा मतलब किस तरह का कैपेसिटी एक बिजनेस एंटरप्राइजेस को जो चाहिए वो हम देखते हैं कि वो बहुत मिसिंग है।
Banerjee, would you like to take that question? Did you get it, what he said? Though there are assets created, there is no capacity building to really use them well. And also the financial management aspects, the FPOs are lagging behind.
Yes, so these are the, I mean, that's not a question. I think that's a comment, that's an observation you shared, and I quite agree with you. Like, this, I started with my discussion that, yes, like women need to be capacitated in the managerial aspects, be it finance, be it supply chain, be it production, operations and all. So, yeah.
But just add to his point, I think most of the training is designed kind of a classroom training, and it need to be in situ training, as we call it. It has to be on ground. It cannot be just, you give them a financial module and an online training. It doesn't work. It has to be at job. You need to understand how a cleaning of millet needs to be done, how the moisture needs to be read, how the weight measure needs to be read. So,
thank you so much. I think enough has been said about the capacity building efforts. Shall I summarize?
Sure, ma'am. You can.
Yeah. Regarding this regarding 10,000 FPOs policy guidelines, we from Makam, we have prepared a detailed recommendations, and the last before International Women's Day, we have sent it across to all the authorities and the players. No one has responded, and we have followed it up continuously. Only NABARD has responded. And I think Access also now can take this forward along with Makam. So we have given a detailed recommendations on that. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we can talk for maybe another 1 hour. It looks like that. There is more energy, and also the panel is extremely charged to share their experience. Just to sum up, I think the guidelines need to specify some targets for including women, and also lay out very clearly, for mobilization of women into existing FPOs, and also, mixed FPOs, what should be the guidelines, and as Kala and a few others have mentioned here, there is no point of tokenism. We need to really show there are adequate numbers and adequate capacity building which should happen. Probably there are certain sectors where women are more prevalent,
like that of livestock, for example, where women's role is so evident. Earmark specified targets for these FPOs, particularly for women. And the case of FWWB, where there is financial incentive provided to include more women in the governance, in membership, that's an excellent example, which could be mainstreamed into financing of women FPOs as to incentivize them to include more. And I think the gender sensitization of a variety of stakeholders, right from the policymakers to CBBOs, and also the funding agencies, resource organizations, that has been highlighted. I think that is very important. And the last but not the least is, the whole issue of capacity building, which has to be more nuanced and very different from what the current guidelines is talking about. Thank you very much, dear panelists. You brought out some really excellent points. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And I thank all the panelists for this enriching discussion, focusing on the importance of gender focus in policy and also need for more training, capacity building and exposure for the women so that they can actively participate in all the activities of the FPCs. With this, I would like to ask our team to hand over souvenirs to the panelists as they move down the stage. I would also like to announce that NGOs who are being felicitated, they are please requested to go to Inspire Hall, which is in front of the registration desk.